Hey there, have you ever followed a coffee recipe, down to the gram, and it still just didn't quite hit the spot? Well, if that sounds familiar, then you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to go way beyond just following instructions. We're going to learn how to actually engineer your perfect cup of coffee.
But let's start with a really basic question. We're all out here chasing that one perfect cup, right? But what if I told you a single, universal version of it doesn't actually exist? The answer is going to totally change how you approach your morning brew, I promise.
All right, so to get to that answer, we've got to bust a pretty big myth first. The myth of the one-size-fits-all perfect cup of coffee. You've probably heard this term thrown around a lot, right? The golden ratio. It's pitched as this kind of magic formula, the perfect amount of coffee to water that will give you a flawless brew every single time. It's really become a cornerstone of how we talk about making good coffee. And yeah, there's even an official number that gets attached to this. The Specialty Coffee Association has what they call a gold cup standard, and it suggests this very ratio, 1 to 18. So that's 1 part coffee to 18 parts water. To put that in perspective, it's about 55 grams of coffee for every liter of water. For years, this has been the gold standard, the benchmark everyone aimed for. But here's the thing, a ratio, that's just the beginning of the story. To really get what's going on inside your coffee maker, we need to talk about the 2 big scientific variables that actually define every single cup of coffee you make, no matter what ratio you use. Okay, first up is strength, and scientifically this is measured as total dissolved solids, or TDS for short. Just think of this as the intensity of the coffee. You know when someone says their coffee is strong or weak? This is what they're actually talking about. How much coffee stuff is concentrated in the water. The second variable, and you could argue it's even more important, is extraction yield. Now, this number tells you how much of the good stuff, all those flavor compounds, you actually manage to pull out of the coffee grounds. And this is where things get really interesting. There's this scientifically recognized sweet spot for extraction, and it's pretty much accepted to be between 18 and 22%. And this sweet spot is all about taste. See, if you don't extract enough, if you fall below that 18% mark, the first things that dissolve from the coffee grounds are the acids, which gives you a really sour cup. But if you push it too far, you go past 22%, you start pulling out all these bitter, unpleasant compounds. So the whole game is trying to land right in that balanced 18 to 22% window. And this is why all the different ways to brew coffee have different starting ratios. It's all about trying to hit that ideal extraction zone. So a French press, for example, where the grounds just sit in the water, might need a stronger ratio, like 1 to 12. But a pour-over, where water flows through much faster, might need a more watered-down ratio, like 1 to 16, just to get that same balanced extraction. Now, for decades, coffee pros used a special tool to navigate these 2 things, strength and extraction. It was like the map to the perfect cup of coffee. But what if that map is just wrong? So this is it. The legendary Coffee Brewing Control Chart. It was developed way back in the 1950s. You've got strength going up the side and extraction running along the bottom. And you see that little shaded box right in the middle that says ideal? For more than 50 years, that was the target, the single destination for every person brewing coffee. But here's the giant, glaring problem. We now know that taste is incredibly personal. Like this quote says, flavor perception is subjective. What I think is ideal, you might find a way too bitter, and what you love might taste weak to me. A single target on a chart just doesn't really make sense anymore, does it? And it's not just a feeling, right? There's actual science to back this up. Some really cool recent studies from the University of Oregon confirmed it. There is no single ideal profile. What they found instead were multiple preference clusters. Basically, different groups of people consistently like different types of coffee. So that old map, with its one single destination, it's officially broken. Okay, so if the old map is wrong, how in the world do we find our way? Well, we need a whole new mindset. We need to stop thinking like we're just following a recipe and start thinking more like designers. To be specific, like the people who design restaurant menus. So that really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? If there's no universal ideal zone to aim for, what's the point? What is a homebrewer supposed to do now? Well, the answer is to stop looking for a destination and start thinking like a designer. It's time to reframe the whole problem, and we're going to do that by thinking like a restaurant menu designer. Think about it. When you go to a restaurant, the menu isn't just a random list of foods. It's been carefully engineered. They use delicious-sounding descriptions, they highlight certain dishes, and they organize the choices to gently guide you towards something you're probably gonna love. They're helping you find the perfect meal for you. And that, right there, is our new game plan for coffee. Our goal is no longer about finding the one perfect cup on some dusty old chart. Our new goal is to become the menu designers for ourselves, to engineer a specific coffee profile that perfectly matches the taste we want. So, how do we actually do this? Let's get practical. Let's move from all this theory to a simple, concrete framework you can start using literally tomorrow morning. Okay, here's a super simple 4-step process. First, you lock in your dose. That just means pick an amount of coffee to use and stick with it. This takes one variable off the table, so it's easier to taste your other changes. Second, make a big, rough adjustment to your grind size to just get in the ballpark. Don't worry about perfection yet. Third, you adjust your brew ratio, how much water you're using. This is your main tool for fixing big problems. If it's too sour, add a little more water to extract more. If it's too bitter, use a little less water. And finally, once you've got the basic balance right, you go back and hone in your grind with tiny adjustments to fine-tune all those amazing, subtle flavors. And through all of this, every single step, there is one rule that you cannot forget. It's the most important principle of all. At the end of the day, you have to let taste be your guide. Not a chart, not a timer, not some ratio a YouTuber told you was correct. Your own palate is the only tool that really, truly matters.
See what happened? By changing your mindset, you've totally transformed your role in the kitchen. You're not just some person following a recipe anymore. You are now the architect, the engineer, the designer of your own coffee experience. You have the tools, you have the knowledge to create exactly what you want to taste.
So that just leaves us with one last really exciting question. Now that you're armed with this new perspective and you're free from the myth of the one perfect cup, what kind of coffee will you design tomorrow?